The Department of Technology in Saint Kitts and Nevis attained its first ever Information Protection Certification. I need to say that again. Information Protection Certification. Imagine that. That's the ISO27001 Certificate. We're going to talk all about that with our next guest, Eurta Chiverton, Systems Manager within the government of Saint Kitts and Nevis. And she's here to tell us about this quote-unquote monumental achievement. Welcome to Good Morning SKN, Eurta.
Good morning.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Good morning.
All right, so let's talk about this achievement. What does this mean for Saint Kitts and Nevis?
Well, for us, it's the first such certification, but let's talk about what is ISO 27001. Basically, with all of the security threats that we have been receiving throughout the world, a lot of companies, a lot of institutions are looking to see how they could beef up their security. So the ISO 27001 suite is basically, it offers a suite of controls that an organization can look to help protect the security of their information. It is not just, it focuses not just on the technology. It focuses on the people, it focuses on the processes, and yes, the technology, of course. So all of them are combined. It's a suite of over 114 controls, and the controls are wide-ranging. So the control speaks to physical security. It speaks to training of employees, and it also speaks to the technology, like the securing of the firewalls, of things like data protection and encryption and so on. So it is wide-ranging.
I kind of feel like when we start talking about these things, we know it's important, but we generally wait, the layman generally waits until something happens to say, oh, this is what I need. And you know that that's not the best practice at all.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Well, for us, what we wanted to do is basically present ourselves and our department as a model by adopting the security measures. We wanted to basically be a trailblazer and just kind of set out that, hey, it can be done in Saint Kitts. Now, this is something that is done by big organizations. We're talking about the Ciscos and the Microsofts. These are the ones who are looking at getting certified. But increasingly, smaller companies, governments, and all institutions are looking to be certified because of the increased security threats. And government of all places, you know, we are the warehouse for a lot of personal data for our citizens, whether it be health data, whether it be data concerning the birth registries, the deaths, and so on. We host a lot of information, and that information needs to be secure. Now, there are also some international standards that are forcing us to secure our data even more. One of them is the global Gdpr, where it's a global standard, and they are expecting you to ensure that the data that you're hosting for persons is very secure, and that you, even to some extent, you have to prove that it's secure and not also host certain types of information, right? That may be considered a threat if it got out there. Other standards include information security standards. Like there's a network information security standard for NIST that you have to have specific standards on your firewalls and all your network equipment. Other standards are for health information, for financial regulations information. So there are many standards out there that we have to comply with. Now, what ISO 27001 does, it gives you a general information security management system that organizations can follow, right? And basically it is a standard. So it's a standard set of regulations that you can follow to ensure that this information that you're keeping, right, is secure.
You have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So can you tell us some of the preparations that led up to the certification?
Oh yes, of course. We started the process actually in 2019. That is when the agreement was signed. We have partners in the embassy of China, Taiwan, and they have been helping us along with the process. We started into 2019. That's when we signed the contracts, and then we were looking to really push in 2020, and by the end of 2020 we should have been certified. We started in 2020 and we did the training, the first set of training, and then COVID hit. And basically we went into lockdown, and all of that training that we had assimilated then, we basically forgot.
Oh, so you had to start over.
And then we had to do another set of training later down in the year. But then we had a subsequent lockdown again. And so what we had to do is we said no. We had to really get this thing going. And in 2021, we decided, no, we're going to push ahead and we're going to persevere and we're going to get it done. So we had about 3 sets of training, because we had the first one, lockdown, more training, lockdown. And then the third one, we said, no, we were going to push ahead and get it done. And so what it involves really, like I said, it's 3-pronged. It's the people, it's the processes, it's the technology. So what you have to look at is having the persons trained. And we're talking about training in information security. It's just training of your staff, training of your technical people, training to see how your processes are set up and see how you could revamp them. And then it's bringing in the technology, looking at the firewalls, the routers, seeing how they're programmed and how they're configured, and see if they meet international security standards. Right? From there, after you have done the training, you have to look at all of the controls, assess your situation to see where you comply, where you don't comply, and then you basically it's really a risk management process. So you're actually looking at everything you're doing and you calculate the risk and see which risk will I accept, which risk I can't, how do I mitigate the risk, and basically you move on from there. And so we looked at all our processes, see what we could improve, see what we can improve, see where we have to accept risks that we cannot control, and then put measures in place to see how to mitigate them. And from then, what happens is that an auditor, an external auditor, they come in, they look at your processes, and so there's an audit that we did, because it was during COVID time. The first audit was done virtually, and they looked at our processes, they recommended changes, we implemented those changes, and then they came back again and did the final audit. And in the final audit, they looked at the process, see if you implemented the changes they recommended, and if these were completed, they will give you basically the certification. So it is a long process, but it's a process of continual improvement. Just like the Japanese, they call it in Kaizen. You do, act, check, and you just keep on repeating the process until it's better.
So can you tell us 3 ways in which they can protect their data?
Okay, I think the first tip that I offered is to keep the unknown.
Okay.
Right? And what that means basically, if someone sends you an email that is basically you don't recognize the person, the author of the email, versus trying to click on the email and open it, perhaps you should just leave it alone. Or if you think, let's say it says, well, Jane sent you the email, you could call Jane and say, Jane, I see a strange email from you, but it's not your email address. Did you send me something? You know? So keep the unknown. Don't try to open everything. You did not win anything because you did not participate in it.
Anything.
Right? So you did not win the lottery because you did not have a ticket. You didn't sign up.
What about the free Samsung phone? I mean, come on, everybody uses Samsung.
Face like
Your reaction.
No.
Yeah, we've seen those messages.
Another tip that I would like to give is basically you need to protect your devices, protect your phone, your tablet, your computers. Protect them by putting on passwords, always. Always put on passwords. No password 123. No password called password. right?
They're gonna figure it out.
Right? No password with just your name alone, right? Always have strong passwords.
Okay.
Ideally, mix your passwords with letters, numbers, and characters.
Okay.
But always have a password for every single device and have those passwords secure, and don't use one password for everything. I'm guilty of that in the past because it's so easy.
It's easy to remember. Yeah.
Precisely.
But no, don't use one password for everything. There are many apps out there. Their password, there's certain apps out there where basically you can keep all your passwords in. They're passwords vaults that you could actually save all your various passwords for your different devices and for your different apps.
I was actually going to ask you about that because I know it's not a good thing to write your password down ever as well.
No.
But you could write it down in a whole thing and nobody realizes. How about that? I've done that.
Do you see the reaction? Do you see the look that she's giving?
No, because we've had persons, even in my office, who have written down their passwords and they stick it on a sticky note under their keyboard.
Wow.
No.
And now we go and we're like...
No, but mine is in the whole paragraph, so you would never guess that's a password. How it's so nice.
Especially now that you've said that on live television.
But they won't know.
No one would ever guess.
They won't know. Just saying.
The other tip I would like to offer is, yes, you're securing your devices, but you also have to secure where you enter into the internet. So you secure your entry at the edge. And the entry of the edge, we speak to having Wi-Fi passwords. Don't leave them open. So when the internet service providers give you your routers and your other access points, close them, right? The neighbor should not be able to sign in and give them free internet. You don't know what they're doing. And you need to keep those. Or change all of the password, even the password that the internet service provider gave you, don't keep it, change it. Most of the passwords on cameras and so on, they're admin, change them. Change all of those passwords and keep them secure. Any access point, any Wi-Fi access points, routers, firewalls, have passwords for all of them and change them from the generic one that is provided.
And if you don't know how to change them yourself, get someone who knows how to change them.
Yeah, get someone who knows. A lot of tech-savvy persons. For myself, even, I upgraded my phone 2 days ago, and I had my son do all of it. Because he's more tech-savvy sometimes than I am. It's the truth. The younger persons are more tech-savvy, so he did all of the upgrades.
What did I say?
I just went, put in my password for Apple, and he did everything. So they're more tech-savy than us.
See? Told you.
I'm going to bring my devices to the studio and you guys are going to take care of it. All right? More tech savvy guys behind the cameras right now.
Yes.
So what is next for ICT in Saint Kitts and Nevis? And that's a broad question.
Oh, wow. That's very broad. No. Okay, for ICT, what we're trying to do is we're trying to support a digital transformation in government. Digital transformation meaning moving away from paper-based. And especially during COVID, what we saw is that we were so highly dependent on paper-based processes and operations that it became very difficult for simple operations to be done. And so we are trying to make that transformation and put more of the government services online and reduce our dependency on paper. Now, that has been very difficult because there's a lot of pushback in that persons are very resistant to change, all of us. As much as we use the technology and use the phones, if you're very comfortable to doing something, it becomes a little difficult for you to change, right? Because it kind of messes with it's just how humans are, you know? So that is what we would like to do. We would like to change of most of the processes that are now paper-based, push them. So there is this strategy that the government of Saint Kitts and Nevis is adopting, which is a digital transformation strategy. And it has many components, and we are starting off with the education of our users. And the main reason why we decided to do this certification is for pushing that direction, because we realize that a lot of the processes have to change, the people have to change, and the technology have to change to support the digital transformation.
You're talking about changing culture.
Yes, mainly.
Effectively. But I can see the merit in that because, as you rightly said, we use the technology and realistically it's meant to make those processes more accessible, easier, even more secure. So although initially there'd be a lot of effort on the front end, back end the rewards would far surpass.
Because we want to avoid the long lines at Inland Revenue. We want to be able to apply for services, water, electricity, online seamlessly without having to visit an office. Certain applications, your passports and all of these other things, yes, they are highly sensitive, but they have been brought online in many other countries, and we can do so likewise. And we are hoping that within the Caribbean we can be a trailblazer on that, because in our country our penetration rate for the use of data and ICTs is very high, extraordinarily high in comparison to other countries.